Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everyone.
Great to be back.
Today, we're diving into clear thinking again, and we're really focusing on, well, how to build that inner strength.
Yeah, the kind of strength you need to, navigate life, make better calls, not just react all the time.
Exactly. And the book argues quite persuasively, I think, that it's not just about, like, gritting your teeth.
No, it's more about cultivating specific internal resources, almost like building mental muscles to fight against our default settings or biases.
Right, upgrading your mental software. So our mission today is to really unpack part 2 of the book. We're looking at chapters 2.1 through 2.7.
And the goal is to pull out the core principles, figure out why they matter so much, and hopefully give you some, actionable things you can actually use.
Okay, so let's start with the big picture for part 2, building strength. The author kicks off with this idea that just like pure willpower often isn't the best way to fight our negative tendencies.
Which is interesting, right? Because we often think willpower is everything. But the book talks about harnessing something else, inertia.
Inertia. Usually seen as a bad thing, like getting stuck.
Exactly. But here it's flipped. The idea is you can create positive inertia. You build habits, rituals that sort of automatically steer you in a better direction.
Okay, so you're channeling that force for good, basically, like building grooves for your mind to follow.
Precisely. And rituals are key. These consistent actions that build that positive momentum.
Like the example of just pausing before you react when someone, pushes your buttons.
Yeah, that tiny pause. It seems small, but doing it consistently creates space. Space for a reason instead of just like lashing out.
Or like athletes with their pregame routines, bouncing the ball, visualizing.
Totally. It focuses the mind, creates that consistent state, overrides the nerves or distractions. It's positive inertia in action.
And I really like the definition of strength the book uses here. It's not about being tough necessarily, but about the power to pause those defaults.
Right. To pause and use good judgment no matter what's going on outside or, how you're feeling inside.
Makes me think of that Kipling poem, if, keeping your head when everyone else is losing theirs. That kind of strength.
Spot on. And the book uses this great metaphor. Building strength is like domesticating the wild horses of our nature.
Ooh, I like that. Taming those impulses.
Yeah, so they work for you, not against you.
Okay, so from that base, the author lays out 4 key strengths we need to build. Can you remind us what they are?
Sure. It's self-accountability, self-knowledge, self-control, and self-confidence.
Got it. 4 pillars. And each one helps us override those unhelpful defaults in different ways.
Exactly.
So let's tackle the first one, chapter 2.1, self-accountability. This one, it really hit me. It's about taking total ownership.
Radical ownership, yeah. For what you can do, what you can't do, and crucially, your actions.
And the emphasis is on internal accountability, right?
Yeah.
Not because someone's watching or you'll get a reward.
Precisely. It's about that inner compass. Being honest with yourself about your role in things, even when it's uncomfortable, especially then, maybe.
And the book points out that people lacking this, they tend to run on autopilot.
Yeah. Or they're easily swayed by, what others think, or they're quick to blame others when things go wrong. It's always someone else's fault.
Which leads to that core message, which is pretty blunt. It's all your fault.
Yeah, it sounds harsh, but it's actually empowering.
How so?
Well, if you accept responsibility, even just for your response to a situation, then you have power. You can do something about it. You're not just a victim of circumstance.
So you shift from passive to active. Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
Like the story about the delayed code.
Oh, yeah, that was a great example. The colleague's feedback was, well, not nice, but it was kind.
That distinction. Nice versus kind. Explain that.
Nice feedback avoids hurting feelings now. Kind feedback, even if it stings a bit, helps you grow later. The harsh truth was kinder in the long run because it spurred improvement.
And all that energy spent being defensive.
Totally wasted. Could have been used to fix the problem.
And this ties into the self-serving bias, doesn't it? That tendency we all have to take credit for successes, but blame failures on outside stuff.
Absolutely. It protects the ego, but it blinds us.
But the key takeaway here is, even if it's objectively not your fault,
it's still your responsibility to deal with it. That's the crucial bit.
The poker analogy. You didn't choose the cards, but you have to play the hand.
Exactly. Complaining about the cards doesn't help you win.
And getting stuck arguing with reality, that's not fair. This shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, the book calls that being on the wrong side of right. You might be technically right that it's unfair, but focusing on that stops you from finding a solution. You prioritize being right over making things better.
So the powerful question is always, Will this action make the future easier or harder?
Simple but effective. It forces you to think about consequences, about productive responses.
Like the mentor's advice after the missed promotion. Stop blaming. Accept it. Figure out what you can do now.
Yes, take ownership. Learn from it. Move forward. Complaining just keeps you stuck, further from reality, and drains your energy.
And it can lead to that victim mentality if it becomes a habit.
Right, where everything bad that happens is always someone else's fault. And the book notes how sometimes even friends can accidentally reinforce that.
By just agreeing, oh yeah, you were totally wrong.
Exactly. Instead of the friend who says, okay, that sucks. Now what are you going to do about it? That's the kind friend.
That father's lesson about responsibility for inaction, too, seeing teasing and doing nothing that was powerful.
Yeah, it's not just about what you do, but what you don't do when you could have.
So self-accountability is really about agency. Choosing action, learning from setbacks, understanding your response is key.
Couldn't say it better. It transforms obstacles into opportunities.
Okay, let's move to the next pillar. Chapter 2.2, self-knowledge.
Right. Knowing yourself. Strengths, weaknesses, limits.
And, crucially, what you don't know.
Yes. Including those unknown unknowns, the stuff you don't even realize you're ignorant about. Being able to say, I don't know, is presented as a huge strength here.
Because it opens the door to learning, right?
Exactly. And it helps you, as the book puts it, play games you can win.
Like that real estate investor passing on a great-sounding deal because it wasn't his specific niche.
A perfect example. He knew his circle of competence, as Munger would say, and he stuck to it, resisted the temptation.
So it's about knowing your edge and playing there.
Yeah, deep knowledge in your area and humility about everything else.
And this isn't just about skills, is it? It's also knowing your, emotional triggers, your vulnerabilities.
Absolutely. Knowing what makes you likely to fall back on those negative defaults, social pressure, fear, whatever it is for you.
Because if you know the weak spots.
You can guard against them, you can see the default coming and choose differently.
Okay, which leads nicely into chapter 2.3, self-control.
Mastering those emotions, desires, fears.
Not eliminating them, though, right? The book's clear on that.
No, emotions are part of being human. It's about managing the response.
The cork in the waves versus the captain of the ship analogy.
That's the one. Are you just tossed around by feelings, or are you steering?
So self-control creates that space again between feeling and acting.
Right. It lets reason step in. Viewing emotions almost like inanimate objects. You see them, you acknowledge them, but you choose how or if to respond.
Instead of just obeying the impulse, like the default for immediate gratification.
Oh yeah, the emotion default often wants pleasure now, even if it screws up the future.
The toddler tantrum example is pretty clear on that.
Yeah. Raw, unchecked emotion.
And the chapter really stresses that long-term success isn't usually about those sudden flashes of inspiration.
No, it's about discipline, consistency. Self-control lets you show up even when you don't feel like it, when it's boring, when it's hard. That's where the real progress happens.
Which requires belief in yourself, leading us to chapter 2.4, self-confidence.
Trusting your abilities, knowing your value.
And the book says this is essential for independent thought, for resisting those defaults.
Absolutely. If you don't trust your own judgment, you're much more likely to just go along with the crowd or follow the easiest path.
And it builds over time, right? From mastering small things as kids.
Tackling bigger challenges as adults. And it's crucial for bouncing back from failure, for adapting when things change.
The book makes a really important distinction between self-confidence and ego.
Yes, big difference. Real confidence allows you to admit weaknesses. It leads to humility because you're secure enough to know you don't know everything.
Whereas ego is more about puffing yourself up, being defensive.
Exactly. Brittle, fragile. Confidence is resilient.
And it's okay to have doubts.
Totally normal. The key is not letting doubt win, not letting it slide into despair or inaction.
Confidence comes from accomplishment, but also from, self-talk.
Yeah.
Reminding yourself of what you've overcome.
Definitely. That story about the son cliff jumping, using breathing, changing his inner dialogue, that was all about actively building courage in the moment.
So confident people, they face reality. They aren't afraid to be different.
Right. They're willing to risk looking silly to learn something. They take feedback from reality, not just from what people say or what's popular.
And they deal with hard truths quickly. No waiting for the perfect moment that never comes.
Yeah, that's often just an excuse. Confidence fuels action, even when it's uncomfortable. It means being honest with yourself. Motivations, actions, results.
I love that CEOs take on the most valuable trait.
The willingness to change your mind,
Yes, focusing on the best outcome, not on being right. That's
which
huge.
shows real strength. Admitting you're wrong isn't weakness, it's courage, adaptability.
Like that woman going for CEO who ended up backing her rival's simpler, better plan.
Fantastic story, outcome over ego, and it actually helped her in the end.
So real self-confidence is about what's right, not who's right. Facing reality, admitting mistakes, being willing to learn and adapt.
You got it.
Okay, so chapter 2.5, strength in action, kind of pulls these four together with examples.
Yeah, it shows how they don't exist in isolation. They work together.
Like leaving that stable government job. That took, well, all four, really.
Totally. Self-confidence to believe you could figure something else out. Self-knowledge to know you valued time differently. Self-control to keep going. Self-accountability to hold yourself to a high standard.
And the other example, the rule about never saying yes immediately to big things.
Same interplay. Self-knowledge of the vulnerability to social pressure. Self-confidence to make the change. Self-accountability to stick to the rule. Self-control to handle the awkwardness of saying, let me think about it.
It really drives home how these strengths form a kind of reinforcing system.
Exactly. A foundation for clearer thinking and better choices.
So then how do we actually build these? Chapter 2.6 gets into setting the standards.
Right. And the first step is being mindful of your environment, the people around you.
Because we tend to become like them. That Epictetus quote.
We really do. We absorb standards, attitudes, habits, often unconsciously. If you're around people with low standards, well, guess what?
Your own standards tend to drift down. Average environments breed average standards.
And average standards don't lead to exceptional results. Successful people, the book argues, have higher than average standards for themselves.
That story about your colleague correcting your language showing the local standard was higher.
Yeah, it was a subtle cue about the expectations in that specific environment.
And that line, champions don't create the standards of excellence. The standards of excellence create champions. That really stuck with me.
It reframes it, doesn't it? Like Belichick holding even Tom Brady to the highest standard. The standard comes first.
And we've all seen the impact of teachers or bosses who just expected more from us.
It pulls you up. But what about smart people with low standards? The book addresses that too.
The Kissinger memo thing. Just asking, is this your best work?
Yeah. A simple question that forces reflection. Is this really my best effort? Often the answer is no, if we're honest.
And that often comes down to just not caring enough, not being truly committed to excellence.
That seems to be the underlying point. Accepting mediocrity from yourself or others means you're not really all in.
Wow. And then the hair example, smashing the bad fridges.
Talk about sending a message. Zero tolerance for substandard work. That sets a powerful standard.
So, masters, show us what the standard should be.
Exactly. We need to raise our personal standard and raise our idea of what's even possible. Avoid complacency.
Working with a master is ideal, but if not,
Then immerse yourself in their work. Learn about them. Surround yourself virtually with high-standard individuals.
which leads perfectly into the last chapter we're covering, 2.7, exemplars plus practice.
Right. The practical steps. Choose the right role models, and then practice imitating them.
So be intentional about who influences you. Don't just let it be random.
Exactly. Your exemplars could be colleagues, historical figures, anyone who embodies what you admire, specific skills, traits, values.
Like your colleague Matt with his work ethic.
He was definitely an early exemplar for me in that regard. And choosing exemplars lets you aim higher than maybe the standards you grew up with.
Peter Kaufman's quote on adopting good models.
Powerful stuff. And Seneca's saying, choose someone to live up to its ancient wisdom.
So these exemplars, they become like a North Star, giving you principles, showing you resolve.
Yes. And you can learn shortcuts from positive outliers, people who do things exceptionally well. Find people whose default behavior is what you aspire to.
And they don't have to be real people even, fictional characters.
Sure. Anyone who inspires you to be better.
I loved the personal board of directors idea from Jim Collins.
Me too. People whose values and character you respect, who you wouldn't want to disappoint.
And they don't have to be perfect, right? You learn from their strengths.
Absolutely. Acknowledge the flaws, learn from the good stuff. Seneca and Cato said, learn from everyone.
And this board can change over time as you grow.
Exactly. It's dynamic. But having those masters on your board constantly pushes your own standards up.
Like Munger's standard for forming an opinion, know the other side better than they do.
Insanely high standard. But it forces deep understanding. Imagine applying that rigor.
And even if you can't work with your heroes directly.
You can still learn so much. Books, interviews, talks, it's all out there. Montaigne talked about gathering wisdom from others.
So your personal board is always there, mentally. When you face a decision, what would they do?
Right, they set the bar. You're competing only against your past self, trying to reach that higher standard they represent.
And this builds up a repository of good behavior, a mental toolkit.
Yeah, a database of effective responses. So you move from reacting blindly to choosing a reasoned, effective action based on proven patterns.
And having high character people on your board encourages you to act with higher character yourself.
Gives you confidence to take the moral stand. And remember, as Denzel Washington said, you're an exemplar for others too.
Oh, right. Our actions set standards for those around us. Seneca, again, the lasting impact of example.
So choosing exemplars is step one. Step two is
Practice, practice, practice.
Exactly. Aristotle knew it. Character strengths are built like skills through habit, through doing.
So you imitate your exemplars. Create that space for reason. Retrain the old habits. Asking, what would exemplar do?
And you keep doing it. Consistent, repeated practice until the new pattern feels natural becomes the default.
And the idea of practicing in a sandbox,
Crucial. Low-stakes environments where mistakes don't cost much.
like managing a small project before a huge one, or doing rehearsals like at the intelligence agency.
Yeah. Learn the lessons when the consequences are small so you're ready when the stakes are high.
Okay, wow, that's a lot to digest, but incredibly practical. So wrapping up our deep dive today, we've really seen how building inner strength involves several key things.
Yeah, taking that radical ownership, self-accountability, really understanding yourself, warts and all, self-knowledge.
Mastering your emotional responses, self-control, and building that core belief in your abilities, self-confidence.
And underpinning it all, consciously setting high standards for yourself and actively learning from and emulating people who inspire you, your exemplars, plus practice.
We really hope digging into these chapters gives you a solid framework for, intentionally developing yourself, turning ordinary moments into chances to build extraordinary strength.
Maybe something to think about is, who are your exemplars right now? And what specific habits or mindsets inspired by them are you actively trying to practice?
That's a great question to reflect on. Okay, join us next time as we continue with clear thinking. We'll be moving into part 3.
Which is all about managing weaknesses and building safeguards. Really interesting stuff.
Definitely. So stay tuned for more insights to help you think more clearly and live more intentionally. Thanks for tuning in.